Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm going to be leading this course. I just wanted to kind of create an introduction so that we all knew what we were doing in this course and why I'm doing it. The plan is to do essentially a free coding boot camp. I've gone over many boot camps, just looking at the different material, filling in gaps. I learned some stuff at one, some stuff at another, going through Google, lots of different searches. I was self-taught in the beginning, doing a lot of YouTube videos, W3, just a lot of different resources. And I always kind of felt like there was a bit of a gap. Some people learn better hearing audio, seeing what's actually going on screen, not just seeing text and what things might look like. Sometimes it's kind of nice to see what it actually looks like in practice and get a little more detail. So to start off with, you don't need a lot of materials and resources for this program. A lot of people think you have to have a super crazy awesome computer. Not necessary. I have a $200 laptop that runs my code editor just as well as my $1,000 PC. So don't overthink it. Don't make massive investments until you really know what you're doing. I'm assuming we all have a computer at this point, just because you're on here and this is kind of what you're looking for. But I've actually run some pretty good code editors even off of an iPad mini. So like I said, don't overthink it. Don't make any wild investments. As far as code editors, I usually recommend to start off with. I really like Sublime. I started with Atom originally. I really like Atom. That one's supported by GitHub. They do a really great job, great plugins, super easy to use. It's a really good beginner tool. However, I also currently use Microsoft's Visual Studio. It's really great. Not a huge difference between that and Atom, except that it really helps when you're getting into the back end. It also lets you visualize stuff a little bit better sometimes. Some of the plugins tend to be a little bit better. I feel like there's a larger market of plugins for it. They're pretty much all free. I've never seen a paid one. So that's a great resource, and that's probably what you're going to end up using down the line. So if you're one of those people that just wants to learn it from the get-go, the thing you're going to end up using, go ahead and use Visual Studio. It's awesome. There's just a little more of a learning curve. If you want to start off a little more basic, take your baby steps, then Atom is probably a good one, and Sublime is another great one. So those are my recommendations. So the way we're going to do this course, like I said, we're doing coding one bite at a time. That's what my mom always used to say was, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. This is going to be a really big topic if you take it as a whole. However, there's a lot we can do in between. We can break it into much smaller chunks. I've done enough lessons that what always worked for me was when there was one topic and we drilled deep, and then we go to another topic and drill deep, rather than trying to cover a lot of ground. I think it's better to start incrementally and then tie it all together with exercises and code alongs, where we're using a lot of those topics that we learned along the way. The big reason I think that is I've seen some courses where the lessons run 30, 40, 50 minutes for their section. They're covering a ton of ground in there. It's really hard to go back and find something. If you want to review, you've got to sort through 50 minutes of stuff. I don't think it's super approachable. I think it tends to muddy the waters. I think it's better to take things one bite at a time. And also so that if there's something you already feel really comfortable with, just skip it. You don't need to go back to that. If you want to review, cool. I'd love you to watch my videos. I do that all the time. I go back plenty and review through other boot camps I've gotten along the way, or my notes. I still read my notes regularly just because some things I'm not going to be using day to day and I want to stay sharp on them. I want to have that in my toolkit whenever I need it. So that's how we're going to be approaching things. Like I said in the information, the about, I want to keep most of the lessons right around 7 to 10 minutes. Some might go long at 11. I think that's more than enough time to cover most topics since we're breaking them down into smaller clusters. Also, we are going to have, like I said, exercises and code alongs. Those are going to run a little bit longer. We're probably looking 10 to 14 minutes on average. Some of them might go 16, 17 minutes, depends on how big a project we're doing. I might even break the projects into multiple sections just to make it so you don't have to just sit there and muddle through all of it. I know a lot of us have work going on, we have kids, we've got stuff we're doing. You've got school. This might just be something you're doing to enrich your work, especially if you're a designer and you want to know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, some jQuery, maybe even a little React, just so that you can beef up your portfolio and make sure you're getting some really great jobs and getting those raises along the way. So the idea is to keep things small. That way, if you want to just do one lesson a day, you'll finish it in a long enough period of time. If you want to do multiple lessons, that's great too. My recommendation though is make sure you're putting your fingers on the keyboard every day. You really need to get a little bit of time in. I'm not saying it has to be all day. You don't have to spend hours. At least get 15 to 30 minutes. Even if you're not up to a project maybe that we're working on and you don't really want to go on to another section, you could just make your own project, come up with something, challenge yourself, make something stupid, make something silly, make something fun. I've seen some people who their throwaway projects are better than some of the designers and developers that I see. Like they're super engaging. Like they've just got this weird factor that makes you want to play around with whatever they created. So have some fun with it. Make mistakes. Make some sites or some designs just to screw them up. I do that all the time. Just throwaways. I call it scrap paper. It might be digital, but it's the same idea. It takes me 1 second to delete it. I can try out some principles. It can look awful, and then I can work on fixing it. So anyway, have a little bit of fun with that. As far as what we're going to be covering, we are going to start off with the front end. We've got to get those basics in place, so definitely HTML, CSS, we'll do some JavaScript, and then jQuery, which is going to make your JavaScript a little bit easier. We will be starting with vanilla JavaScript, which can be intimidating for some people. I know it's easier to use jQuery, and I don't feel like there's a lot of reason not to use jQuery anymore. I know it adds a little weight to your files for sure, but the bandwidth is so good these days that there's no real reason not to. There's a few reasons, but they're not important right now. But I think it's really important to understand vanilla JavaScript, just JavaScript with no bells and whistles, just what it is, just so that you understand how it works and also what jQuery is doing for you, because jQuery is still doing vanilla JavaScript. It's just giving you some shortcuts and making it a little easier for you. Also, I've seen plenty of employers that want you to know vanilla JavaScript. They're just super committed to it. Maybe they're dealing with some huge file sizes and they really need to shave off every little bit. I don't know what their gig is, but there's a lot of people who do that, and I know plenty of developers. That's just how they develop. They just never got into jQuery, and that's cool. I am not opinionated on that. So we're going to be doing that. We're definitely going to move into React. That's Facebook's framework. It's some people say it's a framework, some people don't. That's a debate. We'll talk about that later. It's not super important, but either way, it does some really cool stuff. A lot of the sites that you see that are single page sites that are doing a whole lot of stuff on the page, but you don't see big load times, that's probably what they're using. Angular is caught up a lot, but still React is pretty amazing. Just cutting down on the loading times and the refreshing, it's pretty cool. Anytime you've been on Facebook, that's what is going on in the back end, and that's how they're able to make stuff move so seamlessly. Then as far as the back end goes, we'll get to that later. I would say this is probably not going to be the best course to start with. I wouldn't jump to back end. If you don't have I guess that's the best way to say it. If you don't have front end basics down and a really good understanding, don't bother with the back end yet. The back end I actually think is a little bit easier. definitely than learning the programming languages like JavaScript, or if you want to do Java or any of that Python. Um, it's, I think it's easier, but it's really important to have something that you can actually link up with it. I don't know a ton of people who have only worked on back end. They've at least gotten down those front end principles. So with that being said, the structure, I'm definitely going to break it down by the language we're using at any given time, then also down into numbered sections. I might edit them a little along the way if I find something that I think should get snuck in there, maybe something I missed. I would love it if y'all gave me some constructive criticism, anything you'd like to see, any coding projects, we can try working on that. If there's anything that's not clear, you think I should go longer, maybe even you think I should spend less time, let me know. I want to make the material approachable. I want it to be kind of a living document for everyone. And I want us to all get some really great jobs. So that's all I've got for today. Let me know, and I hope to see you in the next class. And of course, as always, because I am a YouTube creator and would like to keep this free and not have to use Udemy or something, please subscribe at the bottom. It really makes a difference. Thanks again, and I hope you have a great day.